Chosen ones, what I'm about to reveal may shock you, even disturb you. You are being monitored. Yes, watched. But not by the people you think. Not by the ones who envy you, stalk your social media, or gossip behind your back. This goes far deeper. If you're watching this video right now, it's not an accident. God pulled you here because your spirit is ready to understand what's happening behind the veil. This message is for the spiritually awake, those who feel the shift but can't explain it. You've felt eyes on you, haven't you? That invisible pressure, like someone's tracking your every move, every decision, every emotion. And you were right. But it's not just humans. It's the spirit realm. There are entities, watchers, assigned to monitor every step you take. And some of them are not from heaven. You see, when you're chosen, your life becomes a battlefield of interest. Angels are assigned to protect you. But at the same time, spirits from the darkness are assigned to observe you. They're not always allowed to touch you, but they're watching. Constantly. Taking notes. Studying your patterns. Analyzing your weaknesses. Looking for the moment you forget who you are. They report your emotional lows. They track your doubt. They whisper suggestions during your confusion, hoping you'll bite. These entities have no physical form, but they work through people, through systems, through media, through distractions. And here's the deeper truth. While you thought your biggest battles were external, bills, relationships, anxiety, the real war is in the unseen. You're not being followed because you're weak. You're being tracked because you're dangerous to darkness. You've been chosen for something so divine, so deeply tied to God's end-time purpose, that both heaven and hell are watching you. Some of you are wondering, why is my life so hard? Because you've been targeted, marked not just by God, but noticed by the enemy. But here's what they didn't count on. You remembering, you awakening, you stepping into your power. And once that happens, their access starts to collapse. You were never supposed to know this. The systems of this world are designed to keep you asleep. But when the veil starts lifting, everything changes. You begin to notice patterns in your suffering, cycles in your relationships, strange resistance right before a breakthrough. That's not coincidence. That's surveillance. You are being spiritually monitored, not to protect you, but to manipulate you, until you break the pattern. But here's the good news. Once you wake up to the reality of who you are, the enemy's grip weakens instantly. Because the moment you start seeing the war, you start winning it. Chosen one, you've walked through pain that should have destroyed you. You've faced betrayal, isolation, mental torment. But something in you refused to die, because even as the enemy watched you closely, heaven never left you. God's presence never stopped surrounding you. Even when you felt abandoned, there were angels guarding your path. And those angels, they're not passive. They fight. They shield. They war in realms you don't even see. Sometimes that delay you experienced was God's way of rerouting you from a trap the enemy set. Sometimes that person who ghosted you wasn't a loss, it was protection. Because the enemy planted them in your life to monitor you up close. That's right. Spiritual surveillance doesn't just happen in dreams or shadows. Sometimes it walks and talks and smiles in your face. Some people in your life were never meant to stay. They were sent, not by God, but by spiritual forces who knew your future and wanted to interrupt it before it manifested. And you felt it. That uneasiness, that sudden anxiety around certain people. Your spirit knew. Your discernment flared up, but your mind overrode it until the damage was done. But no more. This is your wake-up call. You are not just being monitored, you're being measured. By heaven, by hell, by both realms that understand something about you that you are only now beginning to grasp. You are a key, a gate opener, a light in a very dark timeline. And you can no longer afford to sleep on that truth. Chosen one, now that you know you're being monitored, the question becomes, What will you do with this awareness? You can't go back to sleep. You can't ignore the signs anymore. You've crossed into deeper territory now, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and that changes everything. You see, the moment you recognize that spiritual forces have been observing you, a shift begins. You stop reacting blindly. You start discerning quietly. You begin to see what others don't. The world may see your silence, but the spirit realm sees your authority. Every step you take now must be intentional. Every conversation, every thought, every decision. It's no longer just about survival. It's about strategy. Because the enemy's not after your comfort. He's after your calling. And the fact that you've been monitored this long is proof you have won. But here's the part that will shock you. The same spirits that have been tracking you are now confused. They don't understand why their tactics stopped working. The old triggers aren't effective. The familiar traps no longer trap you. You're not entertaining chaos anymore. You're too focused, too protected, too awakened. They planned for the version of you that was insecure. They studied the version of you that didn't know your worth. But that version no longer exists. And now, you've become unpredictable. To the enemy, to those who underestimated you, to the spirits that used to feed off your wounds. Chosen one, something sacred is happening inside you. Your inner world is aligning with heaven's frequency. You're no longer controlled by fear, no longer guided by people's opinions. And that's dangerous, not to you, but to the system that was built to break you. You were never supposed to rise. You were supposed to be too broken, too distracted, too bitter. But you chose healing. You chose growth. You chose God. And when someone makes that decision, truly makes it, everything in the spirit realm has to shift. The angels assigned to you become more active. The demons assigned to you grow restless. Because now they know. They're not just monitoring a soul anymore. They're watching a threat. Every prayer you whisper, even in weakness, carries power. Every time you speak life over yourself, even when it hurts, something breaks in the unseen. Every time you resist what you used to tolerate, your light intensifies. And let me tell you what happens when that light gets too strong. The watchers go blind. They can't see clearly. They misfire. They attack what can no longer be harmed, because your spirit has elevated beyond their access. What they used to touch, they can't reach. What they used to infiltrate, they can't decode, because God has hidden you in plain sight. And some of you, you've noticed it. People say, you've changed. Old friends feel distant. You're no longer easy to find, not because you're hiding, but because you've been spiritually cloaked. The watchers are still looking for the old you, but the new you, too elevated, too covered, too focused. And that's not pride, that's protection. You didn't choose to be chosen, but now that you are, you must move with wisdom. You are not like the rest. Your energy attracts attention because your mission carries weight. That's why some rooms felt heavy. That's why certain people drained you. That's why you couldn't just chill like everyone else. You weren't called to fit in. You were born to stand out. So now, instead of fearing who's watching, you begin to walk with authority. Because you understand. You're being monitored, yes, but not just by darkness. Heaven is watching too. Angels are observing how you respond, how you carry yourself, how you treat others, how you handle the assignment. They're preparing blessings, doors, divine appointments, all waiting for the signal that you're ready. And the more you rise, the more they release. This is why the attacks intensified before your breakthrough, because hell could sense the shift before you could. They tried to discredit you before the recognition came. They tried to drain you before the overflow arrived. But it's too late now. You're awake, and not just spiritually. You're emotionally awake, mentally aware, energetically precise. You know when you're under surveillance. You feel when something is off. You move when God says move, not when fear says run. And because of that, Your elevation is no longer a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And that when, it's now. God is accelerating things. The watchers are confused. The enemy is frustrated because you've become everything they tried to stop. You didn't just survive the surveillance. You outgrew it. And now, chosen one, you're about to be publicly elevated in front of the very forces that secretly tried to destroy you. You're about to walk into blessings that no one saw coming. You're about to receive clarity, favor, and opportunities that were divinely timed. Because what was hidden is now being revealed. What was monitored is now being magnified. And your presence is about to shift entire rooms. You were never ordinary. That's why you were watched. That's why you were targeted. But that's also why you're being called higher. And here's the final truth. You're no longer just being monitored. You're being documented. Because your story, your journey, your triumph over the darkness is about to become a testimony, not just for you, but for millions.